Hi there, I'm Andy from Roland. We're here at Gear4music today, and I wanted to talk to you about how you can use a SP404-A sampler to supercharge your TR-8 drum machine. So the TR-8 is a drum machine that we've made now for a few years, which has got the 808 and the 909 drum kits built into it. It's a fantastic drum machine for making classic drum beats. But if you have an SP404-A sampler, you can now link the two of them together and use it to either layer sounds on top of those existing drum kits, or if you want, you can completely replace the sounds and use the sequencer in the TR-8 to sequence the SP404-A, which is really clever. It's a really great way of expanding the sonic possibilities that you've got going on with the drum kit. So I'm going to explain to you how we link the two of them together, and then we'll have a listen to some sound examples. Okay, I'm just going to start by going through how you connect everything up. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that your TR-8 is running at least firmware version 1.50. So to check that, start with your TR-8 off, hold down pads 14 and 16 and turn it on. And you'll be presented with this screen. Press the start-stop button, and in the tempo dial, it'll say what version of software it is running. So you need to make sure that you're on version 1.50, but these are free downloads for the Roland website, and you can just install it quite easily. Then once you have updated your machine, the other thing that you need to do is make sure that your SP404-A is synced to receive tempo from the TR-8, and you do that by going Shift and pad number 10. It'll be set to auto to begin with, but if you set it to TMP for tempo, and then press record to save the setting, and now that'll be synced to it. In terms of actually connecting the devices up, so out of the back of the TR-8, so I've got a MIDI cable going from the MIDI out into the MIDI in on the SP404-A, so that's going to send the pattern information from the TR-8 into the SP404. And then we have an audio cable going out of the SP404-A plugged into the external input of the TR-8, which you can control the volume of over here. The nice thing is, because the audio from the SP404-A is going through the external input of the TR-8, that means that the sound from the SP404 can be controlled with the scatter as well, which is quite good for creative effects. So once you've got everything set up like that, then we can start making some patterns and syncing them together. Okay, so now that we've got both devices connected up, we can see how we can start making some sounds together. So on the SP404-A, we have 10 banks of 12 pads, which we can assign samples to. So we've got some preset drum sounds that are built onto here already, just one shots. And now, if we program a pattern on the TR-8, we can then layer the two of them together. So on the TR-8, if I wanted to make a pattern, you would go to your bass drum and you could enter in some hits. I can add in some snare drums, and let's also add in some hi-hats as well, just for a simple pattern. Which is great. But now if we wanted to load in some samples on top of that, so now if I go into my instrument edit for the bass drum, this is where you could select different sounds. So if I wanted to swap out my TR-808 drum sound for a TR-909 one, I could swap them over there. But now we have a new button at the end, number 16, and this is to do with layering the two instruments together. So at the moment when it's on white, it's not doing anything. If I press it once so that it goes yellow, you can see on the screen that it illuminates with the letter A. So now this means that it's going to layer the sound of that kick drum with the sound that is on pad 1 in bank A of the SP404-A, which is this drum sound. So now when I press start, we'll be hearing both of these two machines together. I'm just going to turn down the volume of the SP404-A and then bring it back up so you can hear the difference that it makes to the sound. So I'll turn it down. So we're just starting with the TR-8 and then I'll fade in the volume of the SP404-A. You can see it's making the difference there and giving it a little bit more punch, and it's changing the character of the sound, which is cool. So if we push the button 16 a second time so that it flashes blue, now it's just going to play the sound from the SP404-A and it's going to mute out the sound from the TR-8. So But of course, because we have different samples available, I can change the bank. So for instance, say if I didn't want the sound that's going from bank A, I might want one from B, C, D, E, or so on. I can change it. So if I change it to say bank F and now play it, so that's playing a very reverby sample of a kick drum that we have on there. So that's really good because you can swap out sounds that you've got going on the TR-8, or you can layer them together, which is pretty cool. So another great thing about it is instead of just using individual sounds, if you wanted to, you could actually use loops because it's a sampler. It doesn't have to be a short piece of audio. It can be as long as you like, or it can be literally whatever you want. So I've created a couple of loops here which are at a tempo of 112 BPM, so which last 1 bar. So that's one loop and it just stops after that in a slightly different key. And I made those at 112 BPM, which is what we've programmed into the drum machine now. So on my pattern here, if I program in my first hit and press start, so you can see as it's going round and round, it's just re-triggering that sample over and over again, which is good. And because we have variations A and B, I can use that for different sections. So I've programmed the sample for the second loop on B. And now if I link those two patterns together, they'll play in sequence. And because we can use melodic information, I've also got a few bass notes, which I've programmed into it as well. And they can go in the same sequence. So. And that's really cool, so it really expands the sonic possibilities. So I'm just going to do a little performance for you now and show you how you can use that to sort of make a bit of a track go in.